Hey guys, how are you doing? Hopefully you're having a great day. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's been probably a couple of years or so since I've done one of these, but in today's video, I'm going to take a technique, that being cranking. I'm going to break it down for you guys, rod, reel, line, and baits, and kind of give you guys in-depth overview of the technique, some things that I have learned throughout the years, and hopefully you guys can take this information and apply it to your fishing. Today we're going to talk about cranking. I decided to talk about cranking just because I've been doing it a little bit more as of late. It's a great way to cover a lot of water and to find fish, especially if you don't have, all of the gadgets on your boat, such as Mega Live and forward-facing sonar and such. So great way to cover water. You can fish a bunch of different depths, and overall just a very fun way of catching fish. So we're going to start off talking about the gear, then we're going to go into some line and what I prefer to use, and of course talk about some baits that I really like as well. So first off, let's talk about the gear. When I first started fishing, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And then online, I heard, oh, go moderate, go with a moderate, softer tip. And that's what I did, and I caught a lot of fish. But over the last 5 or 6 years, I have been using this one lineup of fishing rods, that being the Shimano Zodius glass rods. So there's both graphite and glass cranking rods out on the market. Graphite rods, of course, being like a jig rod or something like that, just with a little bit of a softer tip, like a moderate action. And there are glass rods, which a little bit thicker, as you guys can see, because they are made of a different material, so they have to be a little bit thicker to still have that power, but they're a lot softer, and you see the bend of the rod further down into the reel seat. So the reason I decided to go with glass rods is because of that action, of that bend that you cannot get with graphite. This is my second series Zodius glass rods. I also have the previous series, and they make 3 or 4, I believe, but I'm going to talk to you guys about which ones I went with and why I did so. So first of all, let's start off with my shallower crankbait setup. This is the Zodius 7.2 medium heavy glass rod. It's nice long rod. You can really cast those baits far. It's a medium heavy, which is great for baits anything heavier than 3/8 of an ounce. As you guys can see here, I have a Macbeth 64F on there. And overall it loads up really well, and I really enjoy fishing with it. It has a nice soft tip. You guys probably can't see, I'll get some footage here of it bending over, and just really keeps those fish pinned. As for the reel on here, I went with a Corrado BC 150 size spool, which is plenty when I'm casting these crankbaits out. The reason why I went with the Corrado DC is for situations like this where I'm casting into the wind. That DC really helps me get the most out of my cast, and prevents backlashes and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm pretty dialed with this setup. As for the line, I'm fishing Shimano Mastiff FC. This is actually 12-pound on here. I'll get into that in a second, but I really enjoy this line so far. I've been using it since the springtime. I don't have the 12-pound on me, but that's what the package looks like. Should be available throughout North America here pretty soon if it isn't already, but I've been enjoying the Mastiff a lot. There isn't too much stretch with it. It's a very supple and smooth line. I was cranking early season Lake Ontario smallmouth with a lot of rock and stuff, and found it to be pretty abrasion resistant as well. But so far so good. I'm really enjoying it. Now the reason why I went with 12 versus something a little bit smaller diameter that maybe I could cast a little bit further is because I fish square bills with this combo as well. As you guys can see here, that's a square bill. Fishing it through rock, timber, all of that nasty stuff. Your line's gonna fray, It's inevitable, and that's why I went with 12 pound, just to have a little bit of extra durability and extra strength. So this is my first combo here. This is the one I pick up the most, and I really enjoy it. So combo number 2. This one is a little bit different. I'll get into it here. It's the exact same rod. Like I said, I really like this rod. Really like the glass rods. You do lose a little bit of sensitivity when it comes to glass versus graphite, but I feel like with the Zodius, especially with the monocoque handle, it isn't that noticeable, and I prefer to have that glass rod and that security and that softer action and softer rod in general over the graphite, just because I don't really lose a lot of fish with it. But yeah, this is combo number 2. This is the 7.6 medium heavy glass rod. So it's a lot longer. It's of course a little bit heavier as well. And this is my broomstick of a crankbait rod. As for the reel, as you guys can see, Corrado 200 HG. But the reason why I went with the Corrado 200 is because of the 200 size spool. I like having a lot of line on my deep cranking setups, not just for casting, but I also like to troll with these setups, or stroll, some people call it. So I like having that 200 size reel so I can fit a lot of line on it. And of course the Corrado is just an absolute workhorse of a reel. I know I'm not going to have any issues with it, and it's a reel that, you know, I can always go to. So that's that. As for the line, you guys will notice something a little bit different. There is braid on there. I believe this is 10 pound Power Pro braid on there, and this is something as of 2 years ago I started doing. I actually do have 2 spools for this rod, so I do have a spool with just, I can put at least straight fluorocarbon on it. But the reason why I went with the Power Pro braid is because of strolling. This is something that I do a lot in the fall. Essentially what it is you cast your bait behind your boat as far as you can, and you put your trolling motor on whatever speed you want to go at, and you go forward while you're letting line out of the reel until your bait reaches the bottom. And this way you're able to fish a large area while having your bait touching bottom the whole time. And that is why I went with braid. It's a little bit more sensitive. There's no stretch to it, and that's just something I've been doing a lot in the fall. This combo mostly comes out in the fall, which is why I just keep the braid on there. I do throw a leader on there though, of course. This is 10 pound. This is from here. 10 pound Mastiff FC. Been liking it a lot. I've been using it for pretty much all of my leaders so far. And yeah, I got a little bit of a World Minnow 73F right there that I've been playing around with. That's with that Shimano flash boost, which is really cool. I really like the jerk bait, which is why I picked up the crankbait. But yeah, this is combo number 2 right there. I didn't really mention gear ratios, but on my other rod I run 7, I believe 3-to-1 it is, a 7 gear ratio. I like to have a little bit more speed when it comes to fishing square bills and stuff like that, just so I can kind of reel them fast out of grass and stuff. As for my deep cranking setup, I used to run a 6-3-to-1, a slower gear ratio, a little bit more torque, especially when your baits get very deep. But recently I switched up to HG, which is 7-2-to-1, 7-4-to-1. So it's a little bit faster. The reason I did that is because I found that sometimes when the fish took my bait, they would swim forward with them, and I wasn't able to catch up with my reel. So I switched to the 7 gear ratio. I don't have an issue with that. It is a little bit more, I guess, tiring to fish with, and you do have to mentally remember to slow down, but I have lost less fish with it, and I think I'm going to be sticking with the 7 gear ratio. So now let's talk about line a little bit. I think I was pretty thorough in my coverage when I was talking about my combos, but if I like fluorocarbon a lot. There's a little bit less stretch than mono. It sinks so you can get your bait down a little bit more, and it's more sensitive than mono, which is why I tend to go fluorocarbon over mono or copolymer. Like I said, been using the Mastiff FC. On my square bills, shallow stuff, I like 12 pounds. Some people go even 14. When I'm going deeper, I want a lighter diameter so I can get my bait down further. So if I didn't have the Power Pro on my deeper setup, I'd probably go 10 pound. But yeah, that's kind of the whole line setup. I prefer fluorocarbon. Some people like mono and stuff, but I really like fishing with fluorocarbon. Let me show you guys some of my favorite crankbaits. Where'd they go? Here. So this is my crankbait box up to about 15 feet or so. You guys saw the ones that are on there. A couple more of my favorites. These guys have been pretty popular up here in Ontario when they first came out, especially for smallmouth. This is they're tangled, but the Macbeth 39F. Very, very finesse. So this guy right here, let me show you guys in comparison, is a flat-sided crankbait. The crankbaits here, as you guys can see, like the square bill that's a little bit wider, has a little bit more roll. Flat-sided crankbaits are great for when the bite is a little bit more tough, when you want a little bit more of a finesse presentation. The bait won't wobble from side to side as much. It's more of a tight action like that. This is the Macbeth, what is it? The 57F flat. I haven't really used this one too much, but I have it in my box just in case. Square bills are very popular, especially in the south where the water is a little bit murkier. You can fish it through cover a little bit easier. It bounces off, the bill bounces off a little bit, and it's a great way to cover water that's a little bit shallower. They of course come in a lot of sizes. This is the Macbeth 75 float. As you guys can see, a lot bigger than the Macbeth 39 float, which is tiny compared to that. But square bills are great ways to cover a lot of water. If you're not really sure where to start when it comes to crankbaiting, I definitely recommend picking up a square bill and picking up something maybe a little bit deeper that dives to about 10 feet or so, like that World Minnow right here that I have. And then from there, you can of course expand, grab a couple of deeper diving crankbaits. Of course, you do have to make sure you have the rod for it that can handle, crankbait going down to 20 feet or so, without, absolutely exploding. Quickly, colors. I pretty much just use 2 different kinds of colors, maybe 3. 1 being a minnow imitation, 2 being a bluegill or perch imitation, and 3 being pretty much only in the spring, crayfish imitation. I forgot to mention, I'm going to put this in here quick, smaller crankbaits like the Macbeth 39F right here. Don't use these combos with. They're a little bit heavier and won't cast these baits too well. I have a Corrado BFS combo, 7.2 medium light Corrado BFS rod with Corrado BFS reel. I have, I believe, 8-pound fluorocarbon on there, and that is what I use with these little guys right here, just to get a good cast, because you really need a smaller combo, whether that be bait casting or spinning, to throw these little guys around. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys learned something. I'm going to leave links to everything I showed you guys today down below in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one.